Hi guys, welcome back. So today I've got another tutorial where we're going to be creating this kind of infinite slider you see on my screen. We can scroll down and scroll up and it will constantly just revolve. There's no it's like an infinite scroll effect really. Okay, so it's a nice little kind of vanilla JavaScript project. We're basically creating clone elements and then just resetting the scroll position to create this effect, okay? And when we adjust our screen size, for example, so if it was on a mobile, that infinite scroll effect no longer occurs, but user can just swipe across the slider. Okay, so it makes this app just a bit more user friendly. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, guys, and let's get going. Thanks. So to get started, you can see I've just created a directory called Infinite Slider here. I've got 3 files. One's index.html, an app.js file, and a style.css file. So in the index.html file first, in VS Code, you just to get the boilerplate code up and running. I'll just say infinite scroller in the title, and then, or slider rather, do slider. And then in the body, the first thing we're going to do is create a div with a class of slider wrap. So we'll say slider -wrap, like so. Within this div, we're going to have a div of a class of slider. So this is going to be the actual slider which we transform across the page. And then within this slider div, we're going to have multiple divs now with a class of slider item. Okay, and these are going to be our images within our slider. So just say dot slider -item, like so. And then in here, we're just going to have one more div. I'm just going to say image -div. So this is going to contain our actual image, okay? I'm going to duplicate this, we'll say 5 times. We'll have 6 items, okay? So we'll just say copy this slider item section. And then I'm just going to copy that down 5 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, like so. And I think that's pretty much it for our body. All you need to do now is just link to our app.js file. So come down to the bottom and we'll just say script source app.js. And then in the header, we'll just link to our style.css. Okay, so link style.css. And that's it for our HTML. So moving on, let's go to the style.css next. So if we open that up, let's just open this in live server as well so we can see kind of any changes we make. And let's move this over. Okay, so there's nothing on the screen at the moment, but we'll get to that soon. So I'm just going to copy a folder over actually, okay, and this is going just to contain some random images. So we'll copy that over. And this images folder, it just contains 6 images you can see. I just got these as usual from unsplash.com, a really good website to source your images for your websites, all free to use. And I've just done this naming convention, okay, because we're going to be using JavaScript to apply these to our divs. So just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you consider all JPEG images as well. Okay, so next thing we want to do, if we come into our style.css, let's just get the default settings. So we'll just say star, we'll say margin 0, padding 0, box size in border box as always. And then this just basically just removes all the default margins, okay, and paddings from the web page. Next thing we want to do is I'm just going to select our dot slider wrap, okay. So this is this is going to be fixed, okay. So we're going to say position fixed, and then we'll say top, we'll say 20%, and then we'll say left of 10%. And then we'll say a width of 80%, like so. And then underneath this, we'll say a height of 300 pixels. And then for now, we'll just do overflow hidden. And then we'll just say what I want to do here. I'm just going to put a border as well for now. So say border 1 pixel, solid, black, just so we can see it on the screen. Okay, so this is going to be fixed, okay, and what this is going to actually house the slider. Okay, so we set the overflow to hidden because we don't want the child slider element to be. We don't want to see this when it goes past this section here. Okay, so that's why we're setting the overflow to hidden. You'll see what I mean shortly. So underneath that, next thing I want to do is select our slider element. Okay, so we'll say dot slider. And here we're going to say position. We're going to position that absolute relative to the parent element, which is the slider wrap. And then underneath this, we'll just say top 0, left 0. We'll do a height of 100%, and that will fill to the size of the parent container, which is 300 pixels. And then underneath this, we'll give it a width of 4,000 pixels. Okay, so a nice kind of long slider. And then we're going to display this with flexbox. Okay, so we can spread across the items evenly across the slider. And then I'm just going to do a wheel change. I'm going to say transform. So remember I said we're going to be transforming this child div, and we're using this wheel change transform just to optimize the browser to perform these transformations. Okay, when we scroll on our page, let's just set the background color. You can set that to anything you want really. If you set it to black, you should see it fills the whole container. Okay, so next thing I want to do here is set the slider item. Okay, so say dot slider hyphen item. And here we're going to position these relative, and then we're going to say flex, and we're going to say 1. Okay, and what this will do, this will just space out all the flex items evenly across the slider div. Okay, that's what that flex does. And then we'll say here, again, just overflow hidden. Okay, and I'm also just going to apply a filter on these just to make the images black and white for, when they're not hovered. So we'll just say filter grayscale. And I'll just say 100% for now. Okay. And then what else I want to say here is we want to select our image div. Say image hyphen div. And this is going to contain our images that we stored in this folder here, this images folder. Okay. So I'm going to say position relative. And then I'm going to say left. We'll do 1%. And then top 2.5%. And then we'll do a width of 98%, and then a height of 95%, like so. And then we'll say background size of cover, and this will just basically cover the image or the div with our image to the correct dimensions. And then we'll just say background position of center, and that will center the images to the div. Okay. Spelt wrong. There you go. And that's pretty much it. We're going to adjust the CSS a little bit shortly, but I just want to move on to the JavaScript now. Okay. So if we come to our app.js file, and the first thing I want to do here is I want to just get our selectors going first. Okay. So I'm going to say let slider wrap equal document dot query selector, and we'll just say dot slider hyphen wrap, like so. And then underneath this, we'll select our slider next. We'll say let slider equal document dot query selector, and then we'll just say dot slider in there, like so. And then underneath this, we're going to next create a variable called clones width. Okay, so let clones width equal. Well, no, we'll just set it as a variable for now. We won't make it equal anything. And we're going to use this clones width because we're going to be basically adding clones of our image div elements, and this will allow us to create this kind of infinite scroll effect. So you'll see what I mean shortly when we utilize this variable here. And then I'm also going to just say let slider width equal, and again we'll just set that to a variable. We won't make that equal anything for now. Next thing I'm going to do is create a clones variable, and that's going to equal an empty array. Okay. And we're going to use this just to store all of our clones that we create with JavaScript shortly. And then we're going to say let disable scroll equal false. And then we'll say let scroll pos for scroll position. Okay, and we're going to adjust this variable shortly with some functions as well. So that's it for our initial selectors and variable creation. Okay, so underneath this, next I want to do now is just say let items equal, and here we're going to use the dot 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 operator, and this is going to, we're just going to say document dot query selector all, and then we'll just say slider hyphen item. Okay, so you'll see now if we console.log, items. Let's open up our console in Chrome. You should see we get all the items logged to the console. Okay, so we get this array here, and you can see we get our slider items logged. So we have 6 in total. Okay, so now what I want to do here is we're just going to say, we want to select our images next. So I'm going to say let images equal, we do the same thing, we'll just say document.query selector all, and then I'll just say .image div. And sorry, this is called the spread operator, this ... This just, it's basically, I'd usually write array.from. This is a nice cleaner way to write that. We use the spread operator just to get an array of all of our image divs, okay? And then what we're going to say here is underneath this, I next want to just apply the images to our image divs, okay? So what we can do, we just say images.for each, and then I'm just going to say, do a image, and then we'll also pass in the index, and then here we'll just say image.style.background image, that should be style.background image equals, and here we're going to do backticks because we want to do a template literal. We're just going to say URL, and we'll just say ./images for that images folder in our directory, and then we'll just say template literal here, we'll do idx +1, and then remember that was all JPEG images, so we just put .jpeg on the end. Okay, right, so if we just, what did I call these again? Image-div. Okay, let's just open our DevTools. I expected to see them there. Okay, so need to put the dot there. Okay, so let's try again. We have our images. Again, yeah, we need to put that so you can see now our images are appearing. Okay, so they're a bit spread out at the moment. We'll adjust that in a second because it's not looking great. The next thing we want to do here, so we have our images sorted. Next one I want to do is say items. Okay, now we need to clone all of our items. Okay, and when we clone our items, it will adjust the proportions of the images. So I'm just going to say items.for each. Okay, item, pass the item in, and then we're just going to say we're going to clone each item. Okay, so we'll say let clone equal item.clone. There's a method called clone node, and then we can pass in, you can see here this parameter here which says deep, and this will basically copy, this just says return a copy of the node. If deep is true, the copy also includes the node's descendants, so this will mean like images or any kind of text you include in your items. Okay, so we'll just make that true for now, and then under here we'll say clone.classlist .add, and then we'll just say clone like so. And then I'm going to say slider.append child, and we're going to append all of these clones, okay, like so. So just a slider.append child clone. And then we also want to push these clones to our clones array up here, okay. So we just say clones.push, and we'll just pass that clone in, like so. And we're going to be using this array just to get the clones width, okay. That's why we're pushing all of our clones to an array. So let's save that. And now you can see, now that we've made a clone, our images have gone into a nice proportion, okay? Because they're spread. There's as we had 6 original items, there's now 12 in the slider because we cloned the original 6 items, okay? So next we want to do under here, I'm going to create a function called getClonesWidth. GetClonesWidth, like so. And here we're going to say let width equal 0, and then what we're going to do next is basically loop through all the clones in the array. So we'll just say clones, we can say .for each clone, okay, and then we can say width plus equals, and we'll just say clone.offset width. Okay, and then we'll just say after this return width. Okay, so to explain what we're doing there, we're looping through all of our clones, and then for each clone, we're getting the width of the clone using this offset width method, and then we're appending that, or we're adding this to the width variable we create here, and then once we've looped through all the clones, we're returning that width. Okay, so we get the full width of all the clones in our slider. That's what we're doing there. So next thing I want to do underneath this, I'm going to say function, and then we want to create a function called get scroll pos for position. Should we spell that right? And then in this function, sorry, I didn't want to pass an object in there. And then we'll just say return. I'm just going to say window.scrollWire. And what this does, this will just get basically return how many pixels we've scrolled down the screen. Okay. So that's it. And then underneath this, I'm going to create another function called set scroll position. And then here we can say window.scroll2, okay? And let's just like that. And then here we're going to pass in, this takes in an object, and the first one is the top parameter. And here we're going to set that to top, okay? And we're going to pass in the top argument here, okay? And then, actually no, we'll rename that something different. We'll just say pos for now. Pos and pos here. And what this method does, this will just take in a pixel position, and then we'll set the window to scroll to this position using the top parameter, okay? So if we set this, if we passed in 1, for example, the window will scroll 1 pixel from the top. Okay, that's what we're doing that for. And then what we want to do now is just do another function called scroll update. So here we'll just say function scroll update. And what we do here, I'm just going to say slider. And this function is going to be used just to perform the animation on our slider. It's going to transform the positioning when we scroll down the page, okay? So we just say slider. Actually, no, we'll do first thing we'll do is say scroll pos. Remember that variable we created up here, scroll pos, and we're just going to set that to that function we created called get scroll pos, okay? And that will just get us our scroll Y position, current scroll Y position. And then here underneath this, I'm going to say if. We'll say if the clone's width, okay, plus the scroll pos, if that is greater than or equal to the slider width, then we'll say here window dot scroll. Yeah, we can just do that actually. Window dot scroll rather than do a function. I don't think we need this function. Yeah, we'll just delete that for now. I'll just say window dot scroll 2, and here I'll just pass in the top of 1. Okay, so what this is saying here, we're saying if the clone's width plus the scroll position, if that's more than the actual slider width, that means we're kind of halfway scrolling on the slider. So when we get to halfway, we want to reset the scroll position to the top. Okay, so we're just resetting it to 1 pixel. Then after this, we'll just say else. We'll do an else if actually. Else if. And here we'll say scroll pos. If that's less than or equal to 0, then that means we're scrolling, we're at the top of the screen, so we want to reset it to halfway down the scroll position. Okay, so we'll say here window dot scroll 2. And here we'll just pass in the top argument again, and we'll just say we're going to pass in slider width, and we're going to say minus clone's width -1. Okay, and you'll see what we're doing that shortly. And then coming out of this, next thing we want to do is we're just going to say slider, so our inner slider, and then we'll just say dot style dot transform. transform, and that's going to equal translate backticks translate x for the x-axis, and then here we'll just pass in a template literal, and we'll just say minus window dot scroll y, and here we'll just say pix for pixels. Okay, and then what we want to do here is just request the animation frame. Request animation frame, and then we'll just call that function over and over again, the scroll update function. Okay, so it's kind of recursive, it calls itself. And then I think that's pretty much it. So now what we can do is I'm just going to say, let's just do a function called onload, function onload. And this will basically set everything up when we open up our web page. So we'll just say, first thing we need to do is set the document, the actual body height to our scroll width height. Okay, so to do that, we'll just say document dot body dot style dot height. That's going to equal, and here we'll just say backticks slider width and then pixels. So you should now see that we get a scroll bar on our page. Actually, no, I just need to call that function first. So we'll just say onload down here. What we also need to do, is just calculate some dimensions. So let's just do another function quickly called calculate dimensions, because we need to set that slider width variable. And then here we'll just say a slider width, and that's going to equal the slider. So that slider, then we're going to use the get bounding client rect, and here we'll just say dot width. Okay, and then we'll say clones width equals get clones width, like so. And then in here we can next onload, we can just call this function. So we'll just say calculate dimensions, like so. Okay, so we should now, you can see that we've now got the scroll bar. Okay, and that will match the amount of pixels the width of our actual slider is. Okay, so now what we want to do next is I'm just going to say we'll just say window, just copy this part, and then under here we'll say we'll set the scroll position to 1 when we first open the page, and then I'm just going to call that scroll update function. So now, okay. What is going on there? I seem to have an error. W is not defined. Okay, let's take that out. So now you can see when we scroll, we get that kind of infinite loop effect. Okay. And you'll notice sometimes when we move to the top, you can get that kind of juddery effect. And what's happening, that's occurring because when we scroll to the top, our page, we get that kind of over scroll or bouncing effect with some browsers. So in order to adjust that, we can come into our style.css, and here I'm just going to say at the top here, just go into our body, and here I'm just going to say over scroll behavior Y, I'm just going to say none. Okay, and that will stop that kind of bounce. So now you can see we don't get that occurring anymore. Okay, and also what I want to do, I'm just going to change the background color here to black as well to make it all blend in. So I'll just say background color of black. And there you go, we get that kind of nice infinite scroll. Obviously, it would look a lot better, so I want to just remove this scroll bar, okay, because that kind of ruins the effect a little bit. So to do that, I'm just going to, how do we do this? So let me just say, right. So I'm just going to say body, and then we can say here ::hyphen WebKit, And here we can say scroll bar, like so. And I'm just going to say display none. So we shouldn't get a scroll bar appear now. And that's disappeared. Okay, so there you go, guys. There's our infinite scroller. It works whenever you resize the page. One thing I want to do as well, this doesn't work great on mobiles. It's quite juddery sometimes. So I'm just going to disable this effect when we use this app or website on a mobile. Okay, so to do that, I'm just going to edit my JS here. And I'm just going to say, in our scroll update function, let me just bring this out a bit. What we can do is I'm just going to say if, so we'll say window dot inner width is greater than 760 pixels, then we can say we want to trigger this, trigger all this data, these methods here. Okay, so that's saying if we're basically using a PC or a computer, then we want to set this. And what we also need to do here is just say slider wrap dot overflow dot style dot overflow equals hidden. Okay, to make this effect work. Otherwise, we can say else if our screen is smaller than 760 pixels, then we want to say slider wrap dot style dot overflow equals scroll. So the user can just scroll this normally on their mobiles. Okay, you won't get the infinite scrolling effect, but you'll still be able to scroll. So now when I reset this, you can see the user can scroll like that normally on a mobile phone. Okay, and then what we also need to do here is just, I'm going to call window dot add event listener, and when we want to listen out for a resize. Okay, so if we ever resize the screen, it will adjust these settings as well, and we can just say call the onload function when we resize our screen just to reload everything and set everything up properly. Okay, so now you'll see the infinite scrolling effect's not working at the moment, but when we increase our screen size, we get that infinite scrolling effect now because it's been recalculated. Okay, guys, so that's pretty much it. I'm going to stop the video there. It's getting quite long otherwise, but that's how we create this kind of infinite scrolling effect for a slider. I think it looks quite smart. It's quite a cool technique. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, guys. Any questions, give me a comment or message me and I'll try my best to answer. But yeah, I'll see you in the next tutorial. Thanks again, guys. Cheers.